of conversations recorded with people speaking out about how they were treated at the hospital here. How, when they go in alone, they're treated like a junkie. But they're treated differently if somebody goes in with them. The problem is, in letting those people get away with doing it, you give them the impression that it's okay, despite the fact that they know it's illegal. The hospitals know what they're doing is illegal. TFCC knows that what they're doing is illegal. And the police know that what they're doing is illegal. They're all profiting off of the homeless, but primarily the most at risk of the homeless, the disabled. They prey on us the most, and especially male disabled, because they get to pretend that we're just crazy and anything that they say must be the truth. They don't even ask for the fucking cameras. Public pretenders are useless. Meanwhile, people take their dear sweet time, and when you take your dear sweet time, that's what allows the predator to get away with harming people over and over and over again. When your friend or family member is being abused, and they come to you and they're telling you that they're being abused, they're not retarded about what abuse is. They know what abuse is. Instead of arguing with them, listen. But are you capable? At the hospitals, I did what I was told to do at the hospitals over and over again. Over and over again, it was just head game after head game. I was able to record it on my audio recording devices to the best of my abilities. And when I was able to, I'd download that to my computer. That way, it was at least recorded somewhere. That's only if I was able to download it to my computer. Oftentimes, it would be months in between when I was able to do that again. You don't understand how not easy all of your ideas are. And when I have to pay somebody else to help me with your idea, because I'm not able to do it myself, which is what you said you were going to help me with to begin with. And then I'm running around in circles for each of you, because you had an idea after not listening to anything that's going on. You listened to a podcast that didn't give two shits about the truth and showed they don't give two shits about the truth. Or you watched something on A&E and you think you know all about me and you have no fucking clue. How many of these people have said that they're powerless, except at work? How many of the people at Safeway, at Fred Meyer's, at the Chevron? How many people at the grocery outlet? How many of them have spoken up about the corruption in this town? And how many of them have stories about the Seventh-day Adventist hospital? We've got stories from 80-year-old women. We've got stories from 20-year-old men. And we got stories of everyone in between. We also get to hear from each of these people how the services that they're sent to, how they eat up resources, they eat up time. And some of these people are glad for the resources that they're given, and that's okay. But is it really the help that you need stopping your predators? How many of these people are stuck in a tax trap, or each of the services that they're sent to are getting tax money for not helping them, for sending them around in endless circles when they're abused? Go to this place, go to that place. Oh, you got to get re-diagnosed. You got to get re-diagnosed because you're in a different state. You got to go to our rubber stamps. The doctors that you've seen don't matter anymore because you're in a different state. Well, guess what? If you're abused in any state in the union, the abuse needs to be investigated. If I'm on vacation in Miami, Florida, and crimes are committed against me, should I have to become a resident of Miami, Florida to turn that in? If I'm disabled and I'm on vacation in Miami, should I need to move to Miami because somebody abused me there, took advantage of me, assaulted me, broke my things repeatedly? And if I show any of that back, then I'm magically a bad guy who needs to be arrested. I'm somehow a horrible person. The world we live in is because people don't work together. And they show whether or not they take it seriously based on whether or not they're actually listening to the victim. When you're making plans for the victim of what to do and you don't even know what's going on yet, you're setting everybody up for failure. One thing that I learned when I was the homeless liaison on Pearl Street, one of the homeless liaisons anyway, people know what help they need better than I do, because they know their situation better than I do. So people are going to ask for the help that they need. If there's something that they need to tell you so that you're aware, you should listen to it. Don't blow it off, brush it off, or dismiss it. There have been more than one people that I've known in my lifetime, or that others have known in their lifetime that are close to me, that didn't want to listen to the full situation, wanted to shrug off violence and threats of assaults and abuse and death, and ended up either hurt or killed. Talking about how they're fine, they got it handled, they're okay. Oh, ain't nothing gonna happen, ain't nothing gonna happen, and then something happens. Out here on the streets, we just gotta say life happens. That's how we say it. Life happens. But the reality of it is, I've been exposing corruption nationwide. It's not just one place, and it's used by every department nationwide. The more poor you are, the less you matter. Sometimes these predators get a big head. The more they get away with committing these crimes, the bigger head they get. And I have to go to these different places alone. And instead of helping me stop the abuse, or helping to collect the evidence and allow me a place to write a report and to process that evidence, instead of that, what do I get? Mountains of paperwork and no help to fill it out. Pushing the housing thing, but then once I'm in housing, literally ignoring everything that I have to go through, all the hoops that I have to jump through. Case managers telling me, oh, well, I can't do nothing about anything out of state. Meanwhile, I shouldn't have been jumped around from one state to another like that anyway. I got my disability money in Nebraska. I was in assisted living before Natalie was killed. I had to move out of assisted living because I couldn't afford to go to where the therapist in Nebraska and the officers in Nebraska had told me I needed to go. Front Range of Colorado. Well, going to the Front Range of Colorado didn't get me any help stopping the abuse in Colorado or in Nebraska. Matter of fact, it only made it worse because it robbed me of all of my funds. I had to pay rent in 2 different places. I had to live with drug dealers in Colorado in order to be there to go to the Front Range. I was seeing 3 different therapists. Do you have any idea how much gas it costs to do that? Meanwhile, I had 3 different therapists in 2 different states before Natalie Bollinger was killed. What ultimately resulted in me being as broke as I was and begging for help, please listen to me. I begged everyone before Natalie died. I begged them, please listen to me. People are harming me. But they wanted to talk over me and tell me I just needed to love myself, and a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. And give it to the universe, and give it to God, and give it to Jesus. You mean ignore my problems and hope they go away? No, it doesn't work like that. If it did work like that, oh, blessed be, but it doesn't. Nationwide, the homeless are treated horribly. You'd rather spend $170,000 a year to have a homeless person locked up than you would to actually allow them a place to live for a year. You'd rather just assume that every homeless person is quote-unquote mentally ill, which is like the catch-all be-all destroyer of every life. Because when you call somebody mentally ill, all it serves to do is to claim that they're crazy. It's meant to discredit the victim. That is all it serves to do. The term mentally ill makes it so the victim is somehow magically the predator. The real predators are the media and the police, who will make false claims about a situation and break the law to prevent their victims from being able to take them to court, to prevent them from even having the money to eat. Meanwhile, the help that we need when we're abused is help turning in the abuse with a friend or family member, literally with them, either on the phone or in real life. But the thing is, you have to have a friend or family member who actually cares, who actually takes a look. When you are forced to invest this much time into trying to find just one person who genuinely gives a shit how much you're being harmed, that's harmful in and of itself. Because I'm not allowed to do it for myself. The term mentally ill is too crippling. That's what makes us the most likely to be abused, is that nobody fucking cares. You blame every school shooting on mental illness. You blame every suicide on mental illness. You blame every homicide on mental illness. It's all mentally ill, right? What about desperation? When people are desperate, they do desperate things. This war on the poor has been going on my entire life. I don't know how many people I've spoken with in this town who have said, hey, I go to the hospital. I try to explain, hey, you need to go with me, but I have to go by myself. Couldn't get a hold of this person or couldn't get a hold of that person, or, something was happening. And they had to go by themselves, and they were treated like druggies because they went in by themselves. The bedside manner of the people there was far worse. I have to do desperate things because others don't understand how afraid I have to be. But if I give them a tiny, tiny bit of the treatment that I get, they will flip their fucking wig. There are people like Andrew Wolnez who come up on me, make false accusations, and think it's okay to get violent with me and to destroy my property over it. It's not okay. I record the abuse that I go through for a reason. Because I don't flip out for no reason. Ever. It's the fact that I have to calculate like this. Do I have a friend or family member who is informed? Yes or no? Do I have a friend or family member who cares? Yes or no? Do I have a friend or family member who is willing to speak up when the police try telling a false narrative over the top of details that are important? Yes or no? Do I have a friend who is informed enough to do so? The answer is always no. Is there anyone who will take it seriously? Is there anyone that sending the evidence to isn't a waste of time in doing so? Over and over and over, I take this abuse. I can barely keep my phones charged because I cannot fix my vehicle. I cannot make it to the post office. If I do, it'll be the only trip that I make for several days. Getting anything done, it's not like it is for somebody who's in a good situation. They got a good house, a good family, good running vehicle, and a decent income. No, this is being straight up too broke to survive in the United States of America. Being victimized for existing without a place of my own. I had a plan for getting property so that I could help stop the abuse against me by having a place of my own where I have my own rights and my own say-so. I can decide who gets to come and harass me and who doesn't. I get to tell people to go away if they're bullying me. I get to set boundaries. And that's not something I am allowed to do as a homeless disabled man, is set boundaries. And one of the boundaries that I require, especially out of law enforcement and the courts, is that they do their jobs. But they don't. When you're a homeless, disabled person, it's easy money. It's easy to railroad you in the courts. It's easy to tie up all of your money. And when you're too disabled to take care of yourself and you're being forced to tie up all of your money with the courts and with traveling to the courts, you can't pay rent anywhere. All your money's tied up. Then, of course, the places that you're supposed to go to for help, places like TFCC, they'll give you a list of places that your predators hang out. That's right. I have to be afraid to go to the churches here in Tillamook, including Seventh-day Adventist, because I have been assaulted there repeatedly, including by Andrew Wolnez. There's a lady today, or actually I believe it might have been yesterday. She said that she's got a brother who works on Hondas and he can fix this thing. I said whatever's wrong with it, I might have enough to pay for the part to fix it, but beyond that, I'm broke. I was bullied into doing things that were against my best interest because nobody cared to do anything about what I was going through in a timely manner. Rule number 1, when your friend or family member is being victimized and they tell you about it, don't make them turn it in alone. There is a reason they're coming to you for help. Because if they try to turn in the abuse alone, they're not fucking treated very well. The more broke you are, the more likely you are going to have to deal with that. When I'm called mentally ill as an excuse to do harmful things to me, the fact is that exact harm is the exact reason why we have laws to protect people like me from that style and type of harm. That's where having the mentally ill tag only when they want it to exist, and then it magically goes away when they want to harm me by depriving me of the rights of a quote-unquote mentally ill person. Meanwhile, I was diagnosed with physical disabilities. So the courts and the cops, everywhere I move to, get to be in complete and total control of my life if I try to turn them in. That's how it works. I'm not a very nice guy anymore. And the reason for that is because being nice does not get heard. It gets you talked over. And the I'm sorries. Oh my God, I am so sick of those words. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. No, you're not. Most of y'all, you're just sorry you had to hear it. What an imposition it is for another person, another human being, to be abused. Oh God, how dare they tell you about being assaulted? Poor you, your virgin ears. Like people tell you about their abuse to try to get sympathy out of you. No, it's not sympathy, it's understanding. I'm not coming to you with some pity party. I'm coming to you with an actual problem where people are actually being hurt. Are your friends really there for you when times are tough, or are they just words? Are they a series of pretty memes that they read on Facebook? You just need to love yourself. Give it to the universe. Give it to God. And there's all these people who are in some sort of housing here that have gone to the hospital alone. And they're not rich. And they were not treated well. Even when you explain to the doctors, hey, I'm not here for drugs, I'm here because there's a problem, they still get blown off as if they're some sort of drug addict. So what hope is there for somebody like me? What hope is there? Especially after I've been assaulted at the hospital, and I have a very limited time to be able to get that turned in, where it'll actually be investigated. They'll actually look at the evidence. Because that is not okay. It is not all right for patients in an emergency room to be assaulted. That is never okay. I tried to turn in Officer Lynn Lothman for the first time over a year ago. That's right, October of last year. I didn't know his name at the time. I did have his card, and I said it a couple of times, but I've met a lot of people since then, and there was a few people who told me I got his name wrong. I take a lot of abuse. I post it on my YouTube channel because that's the easiest access to show people what I'm going through. But also, I have to trust those people are going to actually help turn it in. Making me turn it in alone is a bad idea. And me having to just take your word that you did something is a bad idea. Because the police will just pretend like I didn't make an effort unless you go in and speak up that you made an effort. Unless you write it down that you made an effort. Because if you didn't make that effort to turn it in, then you didn't make an effort. If you didn't make an effort with the victim, so that there's actually a witness to the effort, then you're not helping anyone. All you're doing is making it the victim's word versus their predators. And a lot of people have chosen to be predatory towards me over things that were shown to be not true. But nobody cares about that, not even the courts. The police lied about evidence that is blatant and obvious to everyone who's seen it. It is blatant and obvious that police lied. They lied repeatedly across multiple jurisdictions. Lied to hospitals. Lied to the public. They did so unabashedly because there was never any repercussion at all for any of them when they did these things to me. But guess what? Over 24 of the public officials that I have tried to turn in have been arrested for doing those things to other people after they did those things to me, committing the same crimes against others because they got a big head. And that's how it is here in Tillamook. Nearly everyone talks about the corruption at all of these different agencies like TFCC, the police department, the sheriff's department, Seventh-day Adventist hospital and church. Well, I recorded that. I recorded that evidence. People here, especially when they're broke, have no faith in the system because it does not work. It only serves to deprive us of what little resources we have, and our resources are not enough already. And for each of these agencies to cut out their own little piece of the pie for inadequately doing the job for which they are paid, because they would rather perpetuate a profit by having you come back month after month after month for help that never arrives. I have to rely on people who are on drugs or people who don't have any time because they're always working. Many of them having to work with illnesses, with physical disabilities, mental disabilities. The majority of people who come up to my vehicle aren't up to helping me out. They might talk about it, but most of the time they just want something. And a lot of them have mental issues, and it's difficult to have a conversation with them because they do have mental issues or they are on drugs or they're drunk. Anyway, let me see what time it is. December 7th. What happened on this day in 1941? The bombing of Pearl Harbor. Yep. USS Arizona and all of that. Anyway, I try to tell people how important it is to look at the evidence, to speak up about the fact that it exists. I admit that I've been an asshole. It's because it's the only thing that has been heard. Everything else, no matter how nice I am, because I'm nice, I will be talked over. Because I am desperate, I have to be overly nice. And I have to listen to everyone else. And I have to put their needs before mine. Every time. Because I need their help. But before we go jumping through a bunch of time-consuming hoops, we should instead invest that time into listening to the victims so you know what's going on before you start doing things that are counterproductive. Before you start making decisions that take up a lot of time. Oh, well, I thought we were going to do this and I thought we were going to do that. No, that's the point. People make decisions for me without me. And then they pretend that I chose it. And that is not okay. A lot of people try to rush me, and that's what makes things take forever. If I tell you the story of how police abuse the law and abuse their power, just one of these stories, you'll understand how easy it is to perpetuate it over and over again, and how horrible a life it really is. I have nobody to go to in town who will help me to turn these crimes in. I've only got a couple of people who have started to look at enough evidence to understand what a fucked up situation it is. But they've already apportioned time to great ideas that they thought they had and must have been the first. Nope. The major problem that we're having is that we're not getting the story down or the evidence together. Those are the things that I need help with. I've got a shit ton of evidence against a lot of different people. The problem is that there's so much evidence to go through now. At the very beginning, the problem was I didn't know how to take screenshots. Yeah, imagine that. If I'd have sent screenshots to Maddie Boa, Natalie Bollinger, and Alicia Bollinger of what people were doing, how they were treating me, I believe wholeheartedly at the very beginning that Natalie, at least, would have put a stop to it, especially when Tim Beeson was involved in it. Like, hey, I get it. You went back to your old life and the old drugs and all that bullshit. But guess what? I just want to be left alone. Call off the fucking dogs. And you know what? I absolutely retaliated. I called out the people that actually abused Natalie Bollinger right before she was killed. Her dad and Tim Beeson. The things that they did to her were horrible. And the things that they've done to me are horrible. At least I had the balls to admit to all of my worst sins before Natalie was killed. I also spoke out about the abuse that I was taking and why. It's because some heroin addict was fucking embarrassed. Her name was Natalie Marie Bollinger. But guess what? She's not the only one that was on drugs, and she wasn't the only one who was embarrassed. But she was embarrassed for things that she had done. Her mom was embarrassed for things that her mom had done. Her sister was embarrassed for things that her sister had done. Tim Beeson was embarrassed for things that Tim Beeson had done. Ted Bollinger was embarrassed for things that Ted Bollinger had done. Rochelle Shelley Campbell was embarrassed for things that Rochelle Shelley Campbell had done. Danica Garner was embarrassed for things that Danica Garner had done. Angela Wade was embarrassed for things that Angela Wade had done. Jamie Curtis was embarrassed for things that Jamie Curtis had done. Brenda Dickinson was embarrassed for things that Brenda Dickinson had done. Reality It's far different than the games that you play on the internet with other people's lives. Not caring how others are treated about your unkind words. When the person that you victimized repeatedly speaks up about you abusing them, what do? You play victim immediately. Well, I didn't have to do that because I was being victimized. And even worse, I was not being heard. Why is it that girls cut themselves at 5 times the rate of boys, starting at the age of 15? It's because when they went to their trusted adult, they were not heard. When they went to their trusted friend or family member about being abused, they were not heard. They were dismissed, blown off, or made to feel like they were not as important as whatever it is that their trusted friend or family member was doing. When your trusted friends and family members do that for literally years, they never have the time to keep their word. For years and years and years, they are always putting you off, no matter what it is. Oh, Sean, I need a mental health break from all of my friends, so me and all of my friends are going drinking for the weekend. Yes, that's more important than helping stop the abuse that you're going through every day, Sean. I need a mental health day. And how many of you need often and frequent mental health days? And then there's the web sleuths who want to pretend like they'll be my friend, calling me bro or fam. Well, I don't fall for that. Them words are words of manipulation. Just like when you start trying to say things like give it to God. You know what you give it to God people did with Waylon Lolatai? You let him assault at least 7 other people who were assumed homeless on camera. Over and over again. After he assaulted me. You allowed that man to cost the city of Boulder and the taxpayers therein over $3.2 million. That's a lot of money. That's from one crooked officer who got away. He's not one of the over 24 who have been arrested, convicted, and incarcerated. But he should have been. Take a look at the 7 people that Officer Waylon Lolatai assaulted after assaulting me in 2018. Those are just the ones on camera that anyone cared about. They were all women or minorities that y'all cared about. All of the ones who were homeless were ignored and horribly misrepresented. And the only 2 who were actually in houses got actual help. Everyone else was as predators because they were homeless. And the 2 people who were assumed to be homeless were actually, what is the word that we like to use? Privileged? That's right, privileged enough to go to college. They were somehow magically targeted for their skin color. But when you look at the situation, you look at what Samuel Leon Lawrence IV was recording, and you look at the way that he was dressed, and you look at the way that many homeless people in Boulder, Colorado dress, and you notice that he was recording harassment against the homeless. But then what happens? Well, he must have been victimized because he was black, they say. Meanwhile, the officer that assaulted him is the same officer that had assaulted me earlier in the year, Officer Waylon Lolatai. Now, that was in Colorado. What did trying to turn in those officers, who did everything that they could to misrepresent the situation with myself and with the Bollinger family, those officers who chose to assist the Bollinger family in getting away with committing felonies, what's that got to do with Tillamook Adventist Health? Well, that's where Waylon Lolatai and his band of happy police officers come in. Boulder police, these are the same cops that investigated the JonBenet Ramsey thing. How good a job did they really do in that? Look at the world that we live in. You take a look at the homeless and you pretend that we're all the scum of the earth, and you treat us all that way. You show extreme bias towards us. It's already horrible enough that men are abused physically as often as they are. How we're expected to take this physical violence against us. We're told that just because we're men, we're able to defend ourselves against everything, right? Like having a penis is a magic carpet ride that makes you 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I don't know anybody who's bulletproof. I've never met anyone who's bulletproof. You know what I think about that? I think that those who believe that they're bulletproof are using their imaginations. And it's all right to use your imagination. It's not all right to hurt people over your imagination. And that's what I've had to deal with, is people's imaginations. Their druggy delusions of what I could possibly do. I'm not being judged or harmed for things that I actually did. I'm being harmed over things people pretend. People pretend that I did, or pretend that I would do, or could do. Meanwhile, you get to see what people thought of me before Natalie was killed. Yeah, it was nice to everybody. Of course they loved me. But you get to see how they didn't care. They didn't come forward in court. They just argued with people on Facebook. Meanwhile, arguing with those people on Facebook was more important than finding out from me what was going on. They were too busy wanting to argue on Facebook. When you've typed for hours on Facebook, in a Facebook group, but you haven't bothered to listen to your friend about the situation, what kind of a friend are you, really? When you claim to be going through the same things that your friend is going through, but you're not speaking up, you're just talking to them because you want to make it a pissing contest instead of help. That feels horrible. When you say, oh, I'll take care of it myself, and then your idea of taking care of it yourself gets you what? It gets you screwed. And then you bitch that nobody was there and nobody offered to help you the way that you needed. Sorry, I got disconnected. I did offer to help people the way they needed. And I rolled with the punches real well. What it resulted in for me is just me getting taken advantage of over and over and over again. Me wasting resources for empty promises. Me being sent in circles and then sent to other jurisdictions. Me being told that I didn't make an effort to get help when I did nothing but try to get help. Jumping through endless fucking circus hoops. None of it ever focusing on the abuse. It's insanity. Alright, I got 59% for and get myself a coffee at the Starbucks. I understand that people have lives of their own. That's why it's important not to waste time. That's why it's important to listen to my stories, or anybody else who's being taken advantage of and victimized, whether they're in the streets or in houses. We need the same things. Unfortunately, those on the streets are less likely to have those things. Those on the streets are less likely to have that nest egg to get off the streets with. If they had that, they probably wouldn't have hit the streets to begin with. Anyway, if I had somebody to help me go through the courts with the Andrew Wolned's bullshit and the cops, that would be a good start, but they need to be informed. And meanwhile, while I'm informing people, I'm letting them know what's going on. They're still blowing me off, no matter who it is. They're blowing me off like it's no major thing. Well, it is a major thing. It is a very major thing. If I'm bringing it up, it is a roadblock, and it needs to be accounted as a roadblock. My circumstances do matter. The abuse that I take because of the circumstances I live in, that matters too. Alright, my fingers are getting cold. It is. Well, it's slightly chilly so far, but it's going to get colder.
Yeah, it only gets colder from here.
Well, people keep messing with me. On the bright side, I get to go hide in Safeway and wish I lived somewhere that people weren't stupid. But there's stupid people all over the planet. Yeah.
People all over the world.
And all the smart people are like, yeah, I'm too afraid to face the stupids. There are too many.
Yeah. Like, oh my goodness.
That's alright, I'm gonna go waste some money on coffee because I'm stupid too sometimes. Open sesame. That is a nice hoodie, James.
You just hear that.
Yeah, I figured standing in line and being a nuisance isn't necessary.
Yeah. Are you back for another coffee?
I am.
Wow.
I like coffee.
Yeah. It's $2.85.
I'm money. Actually, I like creamer and sugar, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you could just get that.
Yeah, it doesn't mix in the same. Thanks much.
$2.50.
I decided to stand up and pretend to be manly and not use the Super Mario Kart.
Yeah.
On the video games, the Rainbow Road and Rainbow Bridge courses were both very cool, but you can't even talk about those anymore because somebody's car blew up on a rainbow bridge that actually exists.
Yeah.
Terrorists are destroying my childhood, one
Yeah.
Nintendo game at a time.
Yeah.
Alright, that's not true. Watching Nintendo was what I did as a kid. I wasn't usually allowed to touch the game consoles. Mostly because my mom was addicted to The Legend of Zelda. Thank you much.
I know this job is like one of those like games. Like when we make pizzas, you know, the cool math thing. I don't know if you know about that.
What?
Cool math thing? Okay. Like you make pizza. It's weird. This feels like a cool math thing. So I just like redo everything over and over again. It's very boring.
There was a game where you had to stack hamburgers on the original Nintendo. I don't think there was any math involved.
Yeah.
But we had like games. When we got the Apple IIe, we got Where in the World is Carmen San Diego and Oregon Trail. But then there was a whole bunch of like 2 plus 2 is 4 games. They weren't really games, it was just 2 plus 2 is 4 with a little picture on it. I kind of see this as like one of those in the late 90s, early 2000s, they had these video games that you would dance on the pad and like smack on these button thingies they had.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I think it's called Just Dance.
Yeah, it was totally nerdy.
Yeah.
But see, now I'm referencing these cool, shiny, science-looking, like steampunk machines. It even makes steam. It literally makes steam.
Yeah.
And I'm calling it nerdy.
It's glossy.
It is so cool.
I know. What's more? I don't even know what I did that. Just water, I guess.
Because it looks cool.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds cool too.
Sounds like a balloon deflating.
Yo. Or one of them old steam trains. Like when it comes to a stop and lets the steam leak out.
Yeah, just a really quiet one.
It's too bad they don't have steam missiles inside of the store here.
Yeah.
Alright. I will try to race back here for a refill.
Okay. What was I say? I don't know. I did like that, right?
Yeah, I noticed he was already doing cleaning and stuff like that when I showed up.
Who, Faith?
No, you.
I was? When?
That's what it looked like you were doing. You were wiping off that thing there.
Maybe, I don't know. I was just doing that automatically.
Okay.
I haven't started cleaning it. I should, though. So I can get out of here. Because it takes forever to close.
Well, I'm glad it's your job and not mine then.
Yeah. Because they only schedule you for like half an hour, but it really takes an hour. And it sucks.
Yeah, it's nice when they expect you to be a machine.
Yeah.
Well, at least the corporates expect you to be a machine.
Yeah.
In real life, we're all human beings. Plus,
Yeah.
they want you to be nice to customers, and customers want to talk. Well, I thought I'd try to look cool and taller than I am by not using the go-kart, but yeah, I'll just pretend it's a video game.
I like driving them. It's fun.
I agree.
Attention service desk.
Yeah, no, we have to go. There's a dollar. Right here for a refill, or you waiting?
Well, I was going to see if I could get some creamer to put in this so it's easier to chug, and that way I could get a refill. It was almost cold enough for me, though. Thanks, man. I definitely easier to chug.
Yeah.
Sorry. Mr. Skyler?
Huh?
Mr. Skyler was saying hello to me, so I was saying hello back.
Oh.
What are you doing? I'm scaring people. Roar, I'm a big scary bear. Did you hear that mean lady tried to scare me? Or was she trying to scare you? Oh,
She does it to me too.
what a sweetheart. Actually, she's super nice. I shouldn't say that publicly, though, because then people might get the wrong idea.
Yeah. She is nice though. She's like the chillest. Everybody.
Yeah, they had a cartoon about that when I was growing up.
What?
Chili Willy.
What was that?
It was this little penguin.
Really?
Yep, his name was Chili Willy. He's frozen through and through. His head is hot and his tail is cold. He's the chili. Yeah, it was. I was like that big, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine.
What about the crocodiles along the river Nile? They're always warm as toast. They always seem to smile. It's still cooler than Barney.
Yeah. I know. I never really watched that one. I stuck to like SpongeBob. Mostly.
See, SpongeBob is right up there with Phineas and Ferb for being like, I
did
guess
not like
okay,
that.
but it's not Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
Yeah, I didn't like Fantasy and Ferb at all, or whatever. My brother used to make me watch it because he was going to watch it, and I hated it.
That's how I felt about Ed, Ed, and Eddie. I'm like, why are we watching this? This is a cartoon about a board.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird cartoons, especially now. Like if you go on the TV, it's weird.
We had weird cartoons when I was younger, like Freakazoid, but they weren't dumb weird. And the dumb weird ones we knew were adult cartoons. Like Ren and Stimpy was never meant for kids.
Yeah.
We still watched it.
Yeah.
And then
That was
there's,
like Family Guy from my era.
yeah, Beavis and Butthead.
Oh yeah.
Yep. That's her era.
Oh, no, it's not coming. Oh, wait, you already ordered. Never mind.
We were talking about cartoons,
Oh, yeah?
like Ren and Stimpy and Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Don't forget the we get a public craft there.
I love the way you order. Very Nebraskan of you.
I think that it's like much of craft for adding to Is that your right?
It is for now.
So sorry there's no super button.
You know
Could
what?
you
It
imagine if
doesn't
there
matter.
wasn't it just like
I'm pretty sure Koopa would still at me. I don't know. I was always best with the turtle that was on the motorcycle. I was always pretty good with him. But when it comes to the red cart, I think that was Mario's. And then like Koopa had this little teeny tiny thing with these big old pipes sticking out the back.
Yeah.
But I haven't encountered Koopa, so apparently he's got super on his. Like Mr. Rogers says, sometimes it's good to play imagination.
So,
I don't think I quoted him right.
are you in here for fun or are you hiding?
I am in here for coffee and to warm up and then to
So
leave.
no fun, got it.
I am getting some turkey, so kind of fun. Mostly it's just too much time out in my vehicle and I'm surrounded by junk and I have me to talk to in my own head or YouTube channel to keep
As
it.
long as you don't answer yourself, he's normal.
Oh, I definitely answer myself.
Oh no.
I just do so internally.
Not verbally, right?
Yeah. If I do it verbally, it's for show or for entertainment or both. Sometimes the right thing to do is to act crazy.
No, it's not.
Really?
I guess if you're acting crazy, it's just better to look more crazy.
On more
Can I
than
get
one
instructions for
occasion,
that?
I've been prevented from getting
Thank you.
beaten up just by laying down on the road in front of the people that were threatening to beat me up.
Oh my gosh.
It weirds them out. pretty stuff to say. Still breathing, getting a donut.
Then we want everything on that one. All right. All right. 4284, would you like to round up your Christmas thoughts that you want to take?
Throw this in the bag or get yeah, but it's good sale. Yeah, yourself.
What did I do wrong? Oh.
I didn't take them over you.
It's not been done.
You still clean for me.
Right. All right. Sometimes I get it right the first time, sometimes I don't. All right, 43, run that. Thank you. Have a great night. Thanks. How are you?
A little bit more wrinkly than yesterday, thank goodness.
Oh boy, I don't even want to think about that kind of thing.
Well, it makes me appear a little bit wiser than I actually am. Although I'm really not that wise. I still walk up to the doors, the automatic ones like they got here, and I say, "Open sesame" every time.
All right, we gotta get your number. Okay, very good. You know what to do. Okay.
I watched somebody do it once. Now wants me to slide the card.
Okay, sounds good. You want a little bag?
Sure.
Or maybe just a little bigger bag, but.
Will they make for excellent trash bags? Plus, I can reuse
They
them.
do, yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
It says approved. Be safe, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
just a little bit. That's pretty important. See how much charge I have on it at the moment. 47%. That's pretty good. All right. I also know that I have a pack of cigarettes in here somewhere with 2 or 3 left in it. They're probably underneath this massive pile of crap. And I can probably listen to... Let's see what's on. Life Inside an M4 Sherman. The Search for the Lost Super Dreadnought Sunk During Pearl Harbor. Germany's Last Panzer Offensive in Austria-Hungary. ACH-47A. Oh, that one looks pretty cool. Come on. Obviously, most of the folks there at the Starbucks and the Safeway are pretty nice to me.
The histories of the US intervention in Vietnam generally start in March 1965, when US Marines stormed ashore at Da Nang, to be met by a bevy of Vietnamese beauties holding signs saying, "Welcome, gallant Marines." But in fact, the United States had been deploying considerable forces in the country long before that time, including a new weapon system that was really starting to come into its own, and which would soon become a standard feature in militaries everywhere: the helicopter. The US Army started deploying helicopters to assist South Vietnamese forces in 1961, and these were soon being used to develop ideas on a new concept: air assault, that saw infantry delivered directly to their target area to engage the enemy immediately. In January 1962, US Army H-21s conducted a surprise attack on Viet Cong forces, dropping off 1,000 ARVN paratroopers in rapid relays and inflicting a heavy defeat on the insurgents. The idea definitely had huge merit, allowing smaller numbers of troops to be effective over much greater areas. But there was one problem. When coming into the landing zone, the helicopters were horribly exposed to hostile fire, and as the Viet Cong adapted to the new threat, losses began to mount. It was swiftly appreciated that suppressive fire was needed during the approach and departure of the vulnerable aircraft, and that pintle-mounted machine guns mounted on the transports themselves didn't provide enough cover. A rapid solution was tried when the first of the new Bell HU-1s, as they were then designated, was deployed to Vietnam in late 1962. This powerful new turbine-powered helicopter had better performance than the earlier piston engine designs, but the first models of the new Hueys had small cargo compartments which limited their troop carrying capacity, and so a number were converted into a new configuration: gunships. Initially a field adaptation that saw a machine gun and rocket pod fitted either side of the cabin, the Hogs, as they would soon be named, became a standard feature in helicopter operations through the American intervention. But though these gunships were built in considerable numbers, including the purpose-built UH-1C, they were always recognised as a stop. The early conversions, once laden down with weaponry, had difficulty keeping pace with the transport that they were supposed to escort.
Or getting off the ground.
As the Huey was designed originally as a transport itself, it was susceptible to battle damage that it had never been intended to endure. To be honest, the success of the Hogs is more a tribute to the brilliance of Bell's basic design, but it was always a limited aircraft for the role it had been shoehorned into. What was required was a properly designed helicopter.
Hunter killer teams. They had the AH-1G Cobra and the OH-6 Cayuse, both very badass vehicles in their own right. Both of them performing very different functions.
Very heavily armed and armoured, that could escort the more delicate transport helicopters to their landing zone, utterly wreck any enemy on the ground, and take a measure of combat damage. An attack helicopter. Bell, builders of the Huey, had already recognised the problem and were working on a solution. In December 1962, they began construction of a new helicopter to test out their ideas on this, the Bell 207 Sioux Scout. I've done a video on this already, which I shall link to at the end, but long and the short of this approach was the development of the Bell 209, today better known of as the Cobra. Ultimately, this would be recognised as the correct approach, and attack helicopters are a standard weapon system in most modern militaries. But in the early 1960s, there was no guarantee that Bell's concept was the correct one, and so the US explored another
I should have
approach.
gone with the Cheyenne.
And if Bell's idea was to build a fast, agile hunter of a helicopter, rival Boeing's was to build, well, I'd call it a flying fortress, but that has been done before. So let's go with Airborne Annihilator, the ACH-47A. Mind you, the US Army did have their own nickname for the project, Guns A Go-Go. In 1964, the US Army convened a commission, the Bush Board, to figure out what would make a better gunship than the current UH-1Bs that were serving in the role. This considered a number of factors, including current production status and requirements, as well as how much armament and weaponry a particular helicopter could be fitted with and still retain worthwhile performance, which was the biggest issue with the UH-1B Hogs. The board looked at several options, including the Sikorsky S-61 Sea King and Cayman UH-2A Sea Sprite, but determined that the best option was the big CH-47A Chinook. This had only entered service in 1962 and was both one of the most powerful and fastest helicopters in the world at the time. With its comparatively huge lifting capacity and spacious cargo area, the CH-47 could carry both a heavy weapon fit, armour, and multiple crew to provide covering fire in just about every direction. In June 1965, the US Army requested the conversion by Boeing of 4 CH-47As into AA, standing for Armed and Armoured, CH-47As, which subsequently got shortened to a single A, and the first of these was delivered the following November. The aircraft, who would glory in their individual names of Stump Jumper, Cost of Living, Birth Control and Easy Money, were all modified from standard CH-47As by having all but 5 of the troop seats removed, along with the cargo hook and winch, the main hold and auxiliary loading ramps, crew heaters and soundproofing all being stripped from the aircraft. In their place was added about a ton of specially hardened steel armour plating, fire suppression equipment, an engine fuel crossfeed and cut-off system, purpose-built armoured seats for the pilot and co-pilot, and an interphone system so that the crew could communicate during combat. All this meant that the aircraft were all hardened to be able to take heavy machine gun fire, but both stay flying and protect the crew to enable them to keep fighting. But much more conspicuous was the new weapons fit. 2 crewed weapon stations were placed on each side of the ACH-47, with another in the rear. These could be fitted with either an M60 7.62mm machine gun, or more commonly, a 50 caliber heavy machine gun. These allowed the new gunships to engage targets from all quarters, especially after they passed over the target zone after making their initial head-on attack. Because the real teeth of the Guns A Go-Go were all intended to savage the enemy up front. A remotely controlled chin turret contained an automatic 40mm grenade launcher, while added stub wings on either side were equipped to carry a 20mm cannon and pods containing 19 70mm rockets. All of this added up to a considerable amount of firepower that the ACH-47s could deliver to target, following up with a thorough dosing of machine gun fire as the gunships passed overhead. Indeed, I called this type a flying fortress earlier, but it was more like a flying First World War tank, bristling with machine guns and anti-personnel weapons and resistant to return fire from standard infantry weapons. Army evaluations took place in March 1966, and with such positive assessments that 3 of the aircraft were delivered to Vietnam to begin combat testing that June. Unfortunately, one of the ACH-47's Stump Jumper was destroyed in an accident when it hit another Chinook while taxiing. As a result, the helicopter that had been left in the United States for weapon testing was also rushed to Vietnam for deployment. In December 1966, the 3 ACH-47s were designated as the 1st Aviation Detachment, provisional, and attached to the 1st Cavalry Division to support airborne operations. The division had begun deploying Chinooks in a transport capacity in 1965, but had soon come to appreciate the type's heavy lift capabilities. Not just CH-47's ability to shift artillery pieces and quantities of munitions and troops, but also the way they could roll literally tons of napalm in drums out of the back ramp and onto unfortunate enemy troops below. So they certainly seem to have taken to the ACH-47s, and the gunships were soon employed in supporting the 1st Cav's operations. However, such heavy use in combat inevitably led to losses. Cost of living went down on 5th of May 1967 when it suffered a rather tragic system failure. While making a gun run in the vicinity of Bong Son, a location that the 1st Cav had been fighting in for months, the retention pins on one of the Cost of Living's 20mm cannons came loose, allowing the gun to swing upwards and shoot into the aircraft's front rotor, destroying it and causing the aircraft to crash in flames. The tragedy did not stop the operational tempo for the remaining 2 ACH-47s though. Their ability to soak up enemy fire and deliver devastating and accurate support meant that the soldiers of the 1st Cavalry came to hugely respect the gunships and their crews. And this really came to be demonstrated in the type's final mission, which took place on the 22nd of February 1968. On the 31st of January, as part of the Tet Offensive, Communist forces seized the city of Hue, digging in deeply and leading to a month of intensive street fighting as the US and their South Vietnamese allies fought to clear the city. While the Battle of Hue is most famously associated with the US Marine Corps, the 1st Cavalry was also committed to the fight, and with them the ACH-47s, which because of their ability to act almost like a flying tank stroke bunker, were especially valuable. In fact, because the weather was often bad during the battle, restricting air support by attack aircraft, the ACH-47s were often the most formidable air attack assets available in the efforts to retake Hue. On February 22nd, the ACH-47s were engaged in attacking Communist positions on the edge of the city, when birth control came under heavy and sustained fire. The gunship had to make an
Birth
emergency
control, what a
touchdown in a
name for
dry
a
paddy
gunship.
field within rifle range of the citadel of the ancient city, an area that bristled with Communist positions and anti-aircraft guns. Despite this, its partner aircraft, Easy Money, swung in under heavy fire, laying down its own return barrage and landing next to its stricken sister. The 7-man crew of birth control managed to scramble aboard, and Easy Money lifted off, taking more fire and, according to some sources, suffering several of its crew being wounded. Attempts began to mount a recovery effort for birth control, but the Viet Cong had other ideas, hitting the downed aircraft with mortar fire and destroying it. This left Easy Money as the final remaining ACH-47A, and as the operational doctrine had been for the guns-a-go-go gunships to always operate in pairs, this spelt the end for the type. No reported attempts to team the last ACH-47 up with other gunships seems to have been attempted, and Easy Money was said to be converted back into a standard CH-47 for transport duties. Unfortunately, the extensive alterations that she had undergone made such a conversion far too impractical, and so she languished as a maintenance trainer at Boeing's facility in Vietnam. The end of the war saw her sent back to the US, where she carried on serving as a trainer, before in 2000 being restored back to her Vietnam configuration and being placed on display at the Redstone Arsenal in Alabama. The effectiveness of the ACH-47As does rather make one wonder the program wasn't carried on, though the attempted reconversion of Easy Money gives the main clue. The US Army really needed as many Chinooks as it could get for transport duties to replace its far inferior predecessors, which does seem a bit of a shame because, truth be told, the guns-a-go-go gunships were tremendously successful despite their limited numbers. Individually, they carried as much ordnance as 3 of the UH-1 hogs and had both far more ability to absorb punishment and to sustain combat operations because of the greater amounts of ammunition that the big aircraft could carry. Indeed, their formidable capabilities were recognised by General John Tolson, commander of the 1st Cavalry during their tenure with the division, and one of the key instigators of the whole air-mobile concept of warfare. He said of the ACH-47s that, though anything but great, it had a tremendous effect on the friendly troops which constantly asked for its support. From an infantryman's viewpoint, when the go-go bird came, the enemy disappeared. Not a bad tribute from a guy who literally helped write the book on air mobile warfare operations. But with the heavy demands for Trent Chinooks, plus the commissioning of more powerful aircraft gunships such as the AC-130,
Fuck.
the ACH-47As, despite their obvious success,
Tobacco type makes me cough. Cigarettes make me cough. And I'm snotted up.